The interesting stuff I can't describe because I'm in an adversarial relationship with a number of states, a really serious adversarial relationship. And then the situation for detained people. And I have been detained in prison under house arrest and in this embassy without charge at any time in this country for almost 8 years now. And the difficulty for people who are detained in one form or another is monotony, absolutely. So I try and make each day as different as possible, as it possibly can be. And it's never different enough for me. But WikiLeaks became a culturally established, such that there would be a tremor sent through the broader internet culture, which is now the broader Western culture, if WikiLeaks were to disappear. And that's a very difficult role to be in. What would it mean? It would mean that essentially the envelope for publishers and freedom of speech and the rights of citizens versus institutions and establishments would suddenly contract. So I personally and WikiLeaks are partly in the business of keeping the envelope wide, being that avant-garde where we're constantly crashing up against icebergs, constantly, trying to smash through the ice, or at the very least maintain position, so that behind us there is a widened cultural space for liberty. Vast databases of IDs are economically interesting to institutions for other reasons. And the centralization of those vast databases then makes the marginal cost of stealing each ID lower. And the globalization of principally commerce means that you can use IDs in more places. But let's kind of pull back and look at it at a more philosophical perspective. I say that this generation, well, that perhaps our generation, but anyway, this generation being born now, in seconds in most countries, very shortly in most countries, and it's already happened in say, China, most European countries, the United States, is the last free generation. You were born, and either immediately or within, say, a year, you're known globally. Your identity in one form or another, coming as a result of your idiotic parents plastering your name and photos over Facebook, or as a result of insurance applications or passport applications, transport on airlines, etc. You are known to all the world's major powers, all the world's major state powers, and all the world's major commercial powers. That's a very different situation for individuals to be in than they have previously been in. That a small child now, in some sense, has to negotiate its relationship with all the world's major powers. Of course, in practice, it can't do anything. Its parents are not managing that negotiation. But it puts us in I think, a very different position in the sense that very few, in fact, maybe only a few people in this audience, very technically capable people, are able to live apart, to choose to live apart, to choose to go their own way. They must be part of not only the state, but the major state-like corporations, so powerful they may as well be states, and not just their own state, but other states as well. That's a significant change, cultural change for humanity. It smells a little. It smells a bit like totalitarianism in some way. You know, journalists have one of the lowest approval ratings of all professions. I think the last study in the United States was about 25% I think lawyers are just slightly lower. Congressmen are way lower. And just about everyone else is higher. Why is that? Well, it's a sad thing. It's a really sad thing. As someone who loves to document how human civilization actually works, we're in constant warfare with those people who are trying to distort the understanding of how human beings actually behave, including distortions by proxy, which is to come up with nonsense about WikiLeaks or me. I mean, there's been a lot of there's a lot of amazing plots that we've uncovered, in one form or another. I think my the favorite allegation is that I'm a cat torturer. No, seriously, AFP, Agence France Presse, put that everywhere, and even into the New York Times. So there's I don't really know where to start for people who aren't familiar with this kind of disgusting machine that the media is and how it works. Perhaps it's enough to say that most human wars have come about as a result of lies. And that seems absolutely clear in democracies, that democracies have to be lied into war. It's a very serious ongoing problem. It has resulted in the deaths of millions of people in the last 50 years. And you can do a calculation. How many deaths is each journalist responsible for? And I did it in the United States because, not meaning to pick on it, but there's figures for the total number of political journalists. It's about 5,000. It's something like 200 kills per journalist in the last 20 years, just the US journalists alone. But the United States government had to admit under oath in the trial of Chelsea Manning in 2013 that it could not find a single instance of someone who had been physically harmed as a result of our publications to that point. The real question is when, not whether, but when the UK government will follow its treaties that it has signed up to. And if we look in my particular situation, okay, yes, everyone understands there's a vast political and geopolitical dynamic that's intimately connected with the United States. But it is instrumentalized in practice by UK intelligence services and police who will physically arrest me and hold me for whatever the US wants to do with me. So, but what is the excuse to actually do that, to enable those budget spends? The excuse is, in a case that I was never charged for, where the extradition warrant has already been dropped, where I repeatedly won, they say that they're going to keep around the warrant, the UK end of the warrant, for the Swedish extradition, which I won. They're going to keep around that warrant, despite me winning that, because I came in here, and perhaps they might want to, they haven't, but perhaps they might want to charge me with a bail violation. This is the technical excuse. They haven't. Twice the UK courts have refused to do so. Why? Well, because if you move your house arrest location to pursue a parallel legal process, a higher legal process, which is an asylum application, that's not a bail violation. Okay, but what if it was? What if you disagree with that analysis and you say, that is a bail violation? Well, okay, even before I came into this embassy and applied for asylum, which is everyone's right, everyone in this audience, if you are genuinely being persecuted, even before I came in this embassy, if you add up the time in prison under a very grueling house arrest for 18 months, I've already done 3 times the maximum amount of time under UK sentencing legislation. And UK sentencing legislation values house arrest at 50% of prison time. That's the law. So there's, not only is this a bogus warrant that it has no purpose, if you, as the judge did a couple of weeks ago, they say, well, maybe if he came to court, I might want to charge him. So that's why I need to keep that warrant around. Okay, but if that occurred, there could be no possible prison time because I've already served more than 3 times the maximum possible prison time, even before I was awarded asylum. If you include the time in the embassy, which you should, because the UN has assessed it and said, if you legally block someone from leaving the country, that's a form of detention. That would be 10 times the amount. So the real question is, when is the UK government going to uphold the treaty obligations that it has signed and uphold basic justice principles within UK law?